background noise thing. It's so warm.
Go ahead and talk to them. I just sort of there. Can't hear because
Okay.
nobody's getting.
I'll do a mic check. Mic check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you hear me? Hello. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Good.
Can you see all right out of that? Daylight? That was the hardest. Still, you good. Well, I mean, sometimes. Yeah. On the top. Oh, it's like that. No, it's like, there one day. Don hired.
Check, 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 check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right. That's good. Really? Yeah. I wrote everything down. Kept losing me, so I finally, the title. So I had to have it.
I know. It's just the very last second.
But for the most part.
I know.
They are definitely. Sure. Yeah. Normal sleep for a woman who's had travel. You lost the travel. Yeah, he was.
Good afternoon. I think it's important to recognize that in February of 2025, I and over 100 national sheriffs sat in a meeting with Tom Holman, the border czar. and listened to what the priorities were going to be of ICE, Customs Border Protection, and the administration. And we were told that number one was secure the borders, and number two was get the criminal element off the streets, the criminal aliens that we call them. A couple weeks ago, I heard a Customs Border Protection supervisor follow up with that and say that, you know, if we run into somebody on the sidewalk as we're going to a house, then we will probably scoop them up as well. And I call that collateral damage, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I can confirm last night around 5 p.m., 6 p.m., that ICE arrested one of our corrections officer recruits. He was hired in February of last year and underwent a rigorous hiring process. In fact, the last 3 years we've had 1,800, almost 1,900 applications, and we've only hired 138. So our hiring process is pretty rigorous. Every hire is legally required to be verified through an I-9. That's everybody within 3 days of hire. This corrections officer had an I-9 done on him, and his responses and paperwork were pretty straightforward. His I-9 suggested that he was able to work in this country until April of 2029. Actually, the county has taken one step further and hired an immigration attorney to periodically check these I-9s and make sure that we're doing it correctly. However, because of this guy's pretty straightforward I-9, he was not one that was checked. We've also let 3 people go because of their I-9 not meshing, and we did not hire him as a result of that. This officer applied for a job in November of 2024. His background process started in December of 2024 and was completed in December 17th, so about 2 weeks. This background included reference checks, criminal history checks, fingerprints, computer-generated databases, and the results of this individual's background revealed no disqualifying conduct or no disqualifying convictions. The next stage of the process is to fill out a 40-plus page pre-employment polygraph statement that asks things like, are you part of a gang? Have you had anything? Do you drink? Do you use drugs? Do you steal? Have you had any sexual activities with juveniles? It covers just about everything, including whether or not they have monetary problems making their payments. It was followed up by a polygraph by a very qualified polygraphist. And again, there were no statements of disqualifying conduct or disqualifying activities or crimes that hadn't been detected. The individual who was arrested last night was in the academy last fall. And in November, specifically November 11th through the 13th, this individual left the academy and went to Texas for a hearing on his immigration status. He didn't let us know until after the fact, and we had some issues with it because we should have known. But as my staff brought it to my attention, it's like, are we really worried about the fact that this individual is trying to get his immigration papers in line so he can become a legal citizen? The book and the movie do not line up. What I heard from Tom Homan almost a year ago, that we're going to remove the criminals off the street. And I've been pretty vocal about the fact that ICE does have a job to do, and that is to get the criminals off the street. The people that, much like the people that commit crimes that look like us, we don't want in our neighborhoods. I was all set with that. But in this particular case, this is an individual that had permission to be working in the state of Maine. We vetted him. He took the extra step of risking his job to fly to Texas to take care of hearings. And for some reason, he was picked up last night. We've all seen the 3-minute video. And I've heard some people say, oh, it's hard to watch. What was hard is that there were 5 to 7 ICE agents there. In my world, my colleagues, we've arrested some dangerous people on the back roads of Cumberland County with 3 or less deputies. Yet, this was a show of force, a show of whatever they were trying to do with 7 people. What's even more disturbing is the comment made by the witness that videotaped this encounter, who said that in the 3 minutes they got out, they pulled a guy from the car, handcuffed him, put him in the car, they all took off, leaving his car with the windows down, the lights on, unsecure, and unoccupied. They left it right on the side of the street. Folks, that's Bush League policing. Again, in my world, you wait for a wrecker. You wait for somebody to come pick it up that the individual wants. Or you get permission to drive the vehicle into a public parking spot, and you lock it up and you give the person their car keys. You don't leave their personal belongings unsecure along the streets of the city of Portland. It's not fair to the guy that owns the car. It's surely not fair to the Portland police. And it's what my understanding is going on. I'll end with this. We're being told one story, which is totally different than what's occurring or what occurred last night. I will take a few questions.
Can you confirm the name of the corrections officer?
No. It's going to be my internal affairs investigator is going to reach out for the, we're going to do an internal affairs investigation, so it's a personnel matter, and we don't release the names.
And was it your understanding that he was seeking asylum, or what status was he in the process?
Not sure. Not sure. Yes.
You said that he had permission to be in the country until 2029, but there was a hearing in Texas, so was there any info to believe that may have changed?
The I-9 is work, it's a work privilege. So when he came in, he applied for an I-9, which gives him the ability to work in the United States until 2029. It has nothing to do with whether or not he can stay here or not.
And then just a general question, like, has anybody else through ICE been, like, booked through here?
Not that I'm aware of. Anybody have anything further on that?
Not from these arrests.
Yeah, okay.
So he was
Yes, sir.
arrested, any indication what he might be been charged with?
An ICE violation. You know, I did talk briefly with ICE. I called them today to find out if we could get a copy of the report and if I could get a copy or find out what he was charged with, you know. Again, we have to have probable cause, a reasonable suspicion to stop vehicles. I'm not sure what that was. So we'll hopefully get that in the report. I was told he's illegally in the United States, which is kind of troubling because here's a guy, again, trying to jump through the hoops. A guy that has been given the authority to work through 2029, yet he's illegally in the state of Maine or the United States.
You mentioned there was nothing disqualifying in the polygraph and all that. Did you find a criminal record at all?
No. In fact, he was squeaky clean. Squeaky clean.
And has the sheriff's office been in touch with this man's family?
No,
You know where he is now, like,
I don't. I was told Boston. Yeah.
You
Yes.
seem pretty frustrated by how ICE is acting. Is your office doing anything in response to this or to try to protect the citizens of the Cumberland County?
I'll fall back on what I said last week. ICE is a legitimate law enforcement agency with a legitimate function. Based on the presentation by Mr. Holman a year ago, I came out of that with the idea that it was going to be something that everyone could get behind. This opened the door for me based on the fact, I mean, this is an individual that is trying to do all the right things. I've been getting emails about how do we gonna protect people? You know, that's a hard one. There's 290,000 people and there's not enough cops, even if we brought in other law enforcement agencies. I just ask people to be vigilant, you know. Clearly, their motives are a little different than what we've been told, or at least in this case. And I heard today that I guess some judge has decided that, you know, ICE can just kick the door in and go in without any warrants and stuff. And I'd like to see that particular case, because that's not how we operate as local police. And we dot every I, cross every T. And going back to the vehicle and leaving it unattended with lights on and stuff like that, if somebody didn't steal it, then Portland PD would have been chasing a stolen car. So when I say Bush League, I really mean Bush League. We don't do that as law enforcement officers.
Where did the arrest take place?
Portland. Bayside, that's all I know. So, anything else? Yes.
Any indication as to how he got on ICE's radar in the first place? Did they say anything to you when you talked to them?
They said he was illegal, which in my mind, when you look at what we tried to do, I come to a conclusion, I hope it's wrong, that if you're not a card-carrying U.S. citizen in this country, then everybody is illegal. But they didn't say more. I'm hoping to get the reports, because we will do an internal investigation. I'm leaving it open that after the polygraph, it's possible that this officer could have done something, but every indication we found is that this was a squeaky clean individual that really hadn't done anything at all.
And Mike could have done something, you mean, had some sort of arrest subsequently?
Yeah. Since the polygraph was done in February, March. So.
And was doing a good job for you?
Yeah, no complaints whatsoever. No complaints. Like I said, you know, I think the only thing we had was, you know, he went to Texas to take care of his issue. Can't fault the guy for that, even though it was frustrating. And, you know, he had a couple of tardy incidences where he was late getting there. But other than that, he was here all the time. And even when he took the time off, he knew enough to just not show up. He actually put in for sick leave or leave to do it. Yes.
You said that ICE has agreed to give you the reports?
No, I didn't say that. I've requested it.
You requested it?
Yep.
You don't know if they're going to give it to you?
Time will tell.
Sure.
I'm going to have the IA lieutenant reach out again, but, you know, we'll see.
Yeah, and in terms of, you know, I know this is the second time a corrections officer, similar situation, kind of seems like went through the same I-9 background check. I know at that time you said ICE wouldn't get on the phone with you to talk about this at all. What do you think is different about this situation in terms of that?
Well, I think at that particular time, I didn't get a courtesy call. And after that, I called and said, you know, if, God forbid, I arrested one of their police officers, and it happens, you know, I'm not sitting here saying that, like, if the officer had done something that, you know, I'm not going to defend him, but to my knowledge, he hasn't done anything, right? But going back to that, I called the supervisor down in Boston and said, look, God forbid I arrest one of your agents, I am going to call you, and I expect the same courtesy back. And we did get that. In fact, he was seconds before the media started reaching out. But he he made contact with me, just to let me know that one of our corrections officers had been arrested.
Yeah, employee or supervisor from ICE made contact with you, you're saying?
Well, the supervisor made contact with one of my staff, so. But again, we learned something from the last time.
I talked to some residents who have said that they think local police being involved with ICE might help all these operations move smoother, but you've also just talked about how much police policing you've seen. Do you see any future in which things could work together for cleaner operations?
You know, most of the people that work in this area are from out of state. And when they leave the state and look in the rearview mirror, this place will be on fire, right? There's no buy-in. We also run the risk of police not trusting local law enforcement if they're involved with ICE. Yeah, I've tried to tell people, you know what, if there's a protest, we're there to protect them from counter-protesters or ICE. But local police is not going to always know. So that's a difficult question because most people don't want local law enforcement interacting with ICE. There could be a benefit there. You know, we're used to de-escalating people. We're used to saying, whoa, 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 we're not leaving that car unattended with the keys in it. I mean, somebody apparently came and picked it up. I don't know if it's a stolen car that's running around the city of Portland now, but that creates problems for the city of Portland, who weren't there, but now they're taking a report of a stolen car and trying to find that. So that's why you know, it's okay to get tough, but you also have to be empathetic and compassionate. And I didn't see any compassion last night. They were getting tough, but the compassionate thing would have been to make sure that this kid's property was taken care of one way or another, and I didn't see it.
Sheriff Joyce, the gentleman went to Texas, wouldn't that have solidified his immigration status, and wouldn't ICE have known that then, if he went to Texas, went through this process and solidified his immigration status? Again, would ICE have known this, and should they have known this?
I would think they would know it. I don't know what it would solidify. I mean, you know, in looking at his emails he sent to his supervisors, he went down for a court date on one day, and it got postponed another day. He had planned on taking 2 days, as I recall, and it ended up having to take 3 days to be heard, you know, and then took that day afterwards to drive home so we could come back to work the next day. This is why I've also said that local law enforcement has no knowledge of ICE laws. I mean, they can tell me anything, and, you know, unless I have a law degree and specified in immigration law, I don't know if I can push back more, you know? I mean, like I said, I told you about the fact that he was illegal, but I told you what we did to make sure that we covered our bases before we hired him. And it's me going out there saying that, you know what, I guess if you're not the card-carrying, you know, U.S. citizen, then you must be illegal, because that's what they told me is he's illegal. And he's definitely not a criminal. So what part of him is illegal? I don't know. So thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in. Thanks.